All righty, happy people, welcome back. Good to see some of these faces out here.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. To those who came in, please make sure your camera is on. Thank you, thank you. Welcome back for spring, you guys. We missed you so much. As you can see, there's a poll in front of you. Kindly answer that while people are start trickling in. And Chris, would you like to do some of the announcements as well, if that's all right? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Sheila. Hey, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the first week of our spring semester. I hope you all had a great start of your new year. And yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone so we can tag your attendance correctly and also to add your points correctly. Make sure that your cameras are open at all times and also that your names are displayed completely so that we can find them correctly or quickly in the attendance list. And if you are having any issues with your camera or audio, just message YC staff Will so she can take note of that for your attendance. And if you are an alumni or student leader, kindly put alumni or SL before your name because we will be doing breakout rooms today. And I hope you enjoy the class. I'll give it back to Bojo. Thank you.
All righty, folks, we'll give it here another minute. Just make sure everyone's able to join up. Hope everyone had a great Christmas and holiday season and also had a great New Year's. This feels good to be able to see these friendly faces out here again and trying to get energized all over again. So don't forget to answer those poll questions for me. Mm. Let me see, 15 of 17. So just real quickly for today, mainly what we're going to be covering today is just going to be a lot of recapping and a lot of, going over kind of, what we went through last semester. And we'll just kind of cover that and then have some good discussions. A lot of breakout rooms today, a lot of conversations between us just to try to help us get back into the flow of things, right? And get everyone acquainted with each other, help us get over our bashfulness so that we're able to have some good productive conversations here for the future classes. All righty, let's kind of get started here. Looks like we got about 19 people in already, Chris, or something like that, out of the 30.
Right.
Okay,
There's 23 participants now.
23 participants in. Okay, all right. Well, let's kind of get going out there. Let's kind of close out the poll, Chris, and we'll kind of go from there. Let's tally things up here. Let's see where we're at with these questions. Welcome back, everybody. Again, thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to be able to spend some time with you guys, kind of covering, dropping some knowledge here, and hopefully teaching you guys some things that you guys can use as part of your arsenal as you begin to develop your futures and your lives as you're going into adulthood here. Again, for today, guys, it's just going to be a lot, or folks, right? It's going to be a lot of reviewing of what we covered last semester and a lot of breakout rooms that we'll kind of cover there. But going through the polls here, let's see. First question: when you set a new goal, what motivates you the most? It looks like the vision of the end result kind of won out there. So yeah, that's always a good one right there. So if we go back to our discussions from last year or from last semester, I apologize. Right, that was one of the things that's out there. Second question: what stops you most from stepping out of the comfort zone? Oh boy, let's see what this one is out here. So we got some good responses. It looks like not knowing where to start. That's always that one's taking the lead out there, and then it looks like we have a three-way tie for second there with a fear of failure, fear of judgment, lack of confidence, and then finally, right, we have if you could describe your focus for the next 12 weeks in one word, it would be growth. So growth kind of edged everybody out a little bit there, right? Growth, balance, confidence, and consistency there. But growth is the one that's out there. So thank you a lot for partaking right there. Hey, what happened to the joke? Wasn't there supposed to be a funny one out here, YC stuff? You guys missed the joke. Come on, that's the one that I look for the most. All right.
I'll go. We'll add that in the next session.
Okay. All right. All right. Sounds good. All right, folks, welcome back. Again, let's go over some of the ground rules here, right? As I explained the last time we got together, right? English is my second language, and because of that, I tend to speak relatively quickly, or I speak at a relatively fast pace. So if you find yourself not understanding what I'm saying, I'm not articulating, or I fall back into my comfort zone of speaking real quick, go ahead, raise your hand, right? Throw me an emoji telling me to slow down. Let's kind of figure that out. Don't worry about kind of putting me on the spot. It's not a big deal. I'm used to it. I've been dealing with it most of my life. So and this is about you guys, and I want to make sure you guys have the right takeaway. So let's make sure that we cover that. So with that being said, let's start talking about mindset fundamentals. And again, like I opened up here, this is going to be a lot of reviewing, a lot of repeating of some of the stuff that we covered in the first semester, but it'll be pretty good there. So let's go over right now. We'll start talking about learning objectives. So we have three learning objectives that we want to be able to get out of today. Right. And the first one's just being talking about the clear vision, right? So, and how that gives us purpose, whenever it is that we're trying to transform, right? Or giving the purpose, right, as we begin to transform that into SMART goals, right? The second one is making sure that we understand comfort zone and how growth happens and how comfort zone impacts that, and how us getting out of our comfort zone is really where we start seeing the growth. We want to make sure that we're going to cover that again. And then one is to identify the necessary mindset, right? Whether that's focus, habit, success, right, for the next 12 weeks in order to try to, get through this course here as we begin to cover this. So those are our objectives. But before we get started there, what I wanted to do is take the next 5 minutes. We'll create some breakout rooms. Let's start having a little bit of discussion. I want us to get us back into the habit of being able to talk to each other, being able to share ideas, and and then just kind of refresh again, kind of the things that we covered. So the way that we'll do that is by asking the question: is what stuck with you? Right. So I want us to break away into some breakout rooms, and I'll let the YC staff kind of do that. We'll take 5 minutes. You guys go ahead and have a good conversation about kind of what stuck with you, right? Whether it was mindset, critical thinking, financial literacy, the business skills, goal setting and time management, and character. Those are things that we covered in the first semester, and just wondering what stuck with you with all these different topics, right? So and which ones have you been able to use and put and apply to life. So if we can, let's go ahead and break away into our groups.
Hi, Chris. Do you need me to lead any breakout rooms or can I float around?
Yeah, just float around, Will, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrea. Did you receive the notification for the breakout room? Hello? Hello, Andrea. If you're having any audio issues or like computer issues that you can join any breakout room, kindly message our YC staff. Her name is Will. She's handling the attendance today. Thank you. Hi, Jocelyn. Did you just join the meeting? Hello? Can you hear me?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Alrighty. Hopefully you guys had some good talkative sessions. Anybody kind of want to share? What was one of the things that stuck out to them more here with the bigger group? Maximiliano, can I put you on the spot just because I was in a group with you?
Yeah, so what I shared is what stuck with me was time management. And then I was also asked like how did I apply that into real life? And basically in this coming new year or this coming school year, I jotted stuff down in an agenda to give me kind of a place to start and how I would finish.
Yeah, which is a great answer and it's a great takeaway, right? So I'm glad you were able to pick up on that skill. Hopefully, that kind of that registered with a couple of you also. Anybody else? What else kind of stuck out with you guys? Emma, I'd love to hear from an alumni.
For Tomas, he said something really interesting about changing the semester with his skills.
I think she's passing the ball over to you, Tomas.
Um, for me, I just wanted to take into account that I should be participating in more things and really surrounding myself with other people who want to do the same things that I want to do, and that'll help facilitate growth and help me to delve deeper into my passions and just explore what I really want to do. And I think that's true for everyone. It doesn't necessarily have to be what I want to do. That's why I'm not really naming anything per se. I'm just saying that it's like a general feel to being successful, whatever you want to do.
No, that's actually real good right there. Yeah, so that's actually pretty awesome, and yeah, it's actually real good advice, right? So, when I was younger, I had a mentor, and that's what he would tell me is like, hey, show me who your friends are, and I'll show you who you are. And it took me a while before it would register in my head what he was trying to tell me, but basically what he was telling me is like, hey, if you associate with people, the people that you associate with, that's pretty much what you're going to become the outcome of life is, right? So if what you want to be is a lawyer, then you should be associating yourself with people who want to become lawyers or people who are lawyers or or things of that nature, right? Just using that as an example. So yeah, so associating yourself with the right surroundings, that's always that's always a real good thing. So and then when you apply it with some of the techniques and tactics that we're talking about in the first semester, that'll that goes a long way. All right, well, perfect. Hey, thanks for the folks that were able to share with us, but let's kind of get going here. So the next slide here that we have is we're going to talk a little bit about visions and goal setting, right? So, and then we kind of talked a little bit about it last semester, right? We kind of dabbled with it, but the reality is that having a clear vision, right? This is the one that provides the vision provides the direction and the purpose, right? And so again, right, when we were talking about this, is we're saying, hey, this is what I want to do, and we kind of look out that way, and we say this is where we want, where we want to be at, right? And then what we do is you couple that along with goal setting, and goal setting is kind of like building the map, right? So, if you're out if you're out and you say, okay, this is where I want to be at, right? Um, you have to be able to have a map to be able to get there. So that's great that you have a vision, right? But your goals are the ones that break it down into smaller steps and they kind of help you get there, right? And so that becomes kind of like your map of how to be able to achieve your vision. One of the ways that we had talked about, or our preferred method, right, or a good method for us to be able to do that, is through the use of what we call the SMART goals, right? And again, just bringing you back to what the SMART goals are is something about being specific. It's got to be measurable. It's got to be achievable, relevant, and it's got to be time bound, right? So, I believe that last semester when we were talking about the SMART goals, what the example that I use is that, hey, I want to become a bodybuilder, right? And so that's great. We have the vision that's out there, but there's multiple ways of being able to become a bodybuilder. And so one of the things that you would start off with the SMART goal is instead of saying, "Hey, I want to be a bodybuilder," what you would kind of set out as a goal is saying, "Okay, you know what? For the month of January, I am going to make it a goal that I make it to the gym 3 times a week, right? And and for my baseline, I increase my strength by 20%. So that becomes something that's very specific, it's very time bound, and it breaks it down into a small chunk, right? So, and then, you do that and you come back after the first month and you reshape that goal again. And now maybe it is, hey, for the month of February, I'm going to make it 4 times a week. And you kind of move your ways up that way, right? A little bit at a time. And that's how SMART goals end up becoming our roadmap to get from the place where we are to the place that we want to be, right? So that's how we use both of those things out there, if you guys remember there, right? Now, as we kind of talk about, as we talk about these things and we go out here, right? What makes it a little easier or what makes it harder to stay focused on your goals, right? Because even if we have a vision and we have these SMART goals, um, you know, in the back of your head, right? Start thinking about, hey, what makes it harder? What makes it easier, right? So, because a lot of times, remember this SMART goal, this having a vision and the SMART goals that we talk about, that's going to take some discipline. It takes some muscle memory. You have to start working it in order to be able to get good at it. So we're not going to be experts at it, but in the back of your head, what you should be thinking about is, what makes it easier and what makes it harder, right? And then as you're making those notes, we talked about vision boards, right? Also last year. So as you're making these vision boards, right, you can start making these notations about what makes it easier and what makes it harder. So that goes out in the first slide, which then now takes us into our first online workbook question. So what we're going to do with the online workbook question is we're going to spend 90 seconds. We'll give you guys 90 seconds to be able to answer the online workbook question. And then after that, we're going to have a breakaway group for 5 minutes so that we can kind of talk about it. And then we'll come back together as the entire session and we'll kind of discuss that. Does that kind of make sense? Show me some emojis there if we're in agreement, right? Okay, so the online workbook question. Describe a goal you set in the last year and let us know how it went, right? Let us know how it went. So describe a goal you set in the last year, right? And let us know how that went. So let's take 90 seconds so you guys can go ahead and answer that on your online workbooks, and then we'll break away into groups for 5 minutes. All righty, time is up. All right, let's break away into a 5 minute. Let's break away for 5 minutes into a group sessions here if we can. YC stuff.
Chris, wait lang.
Thank you.
All righty, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully, you guys had a pretty good discussion there. So, Emerson, if you don't mind, I really like the conversation we had out there. So, if you can just kind of share kind of the things we discussed, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, yeah. So we basically, oh, what I told Bojo was that one goal I had for myself last year was managing my time better because I've struggled with that for a while now. And I told him that it didn't go too bad, but it didn't go too well either, as I kind of fell flat before I truly accomplished my goal.
Yeah, and one of the things that the conversations that I had with Emerson was like, hey, was he able to apply the SMART goals to it, or was he a little bit freestyling, kind of muscle memory, trying to get through it? And I think one of the things that you said, Emerson, and I won't put words in your mouth, is that you kind of did a little bit of a hybrid approach, right? So, but you were trying to muscle your way through it and freestyling a little bit, right? Yeah, yeah, and also, had a few other conversations there with the few folks in the group that we were in, and the overarching point, that I just kind of want to make with all of us, right, is that the SMART goal is a discipline thing, right? And so therefore you're going to have to work at it. It won't just come, and it's not just about reading some slides or hearing it from some guy on in a camera in a classroom, right? Is you really got to go in there and you really got to go work it, because you're going to make a lot of mistakes before you perfect it, right? And before it works for you, right? Before you really start understanding, right, how to apply it, and how to break things down, into smaller steps. But it's a discipline, so it requires practice, and it's going to require some doing. So, so I encourage you to continue working at it. Don't be discouraged by failure, because you're going to fail, right? You're going to fail a lot more than you're going to succeed. But once you succeed, it's going to be something that's going to be amazing for you, that I hope you organize and kind of help you get your things done, right? So, but don't be afraid to fail, right? So what I told everybody, right? I sit here as a 50-year-old man who's an executive, with a bunch of people reporting into him. And I don't say that to be braggadocious, but it's just to let you know that I haven't even mastered it, right? So there's times that I set goals out there, and I'm not the best at following the SMART format, and I kind of break away from it, and sometimes I'm able to muscle my way through it, and there's other times that I fall flat on my face because I didn't do it right. So, but so don't be afraid of the failure. It's probably the overarching message when it comes to the SMART, right? It's a discipline that's going to take us some time to kind of master there, right? Now, in that same spirit, right, it's a good transition, because what we want to be able to talk about is growth mindset and expanding the comfort zone, right? So, um, if you can get to the next slide for me, YC stuff. Yeah, perfect. All righty. So growth and mindset, right? So by nature, right, in order for something to grow, it's got to be broken, right? So by nature, right? If you take a look at it, and again, going back to the bodybuilder example that I gave you guys, right? In order for you to have muscle gain, you have to break the mold of your current muscle, right? So let's say, for instance, biceps, right? So if you're sitting there and you got a 10-inch bicep and you want to get whatever to 16 inches, well, you're going to have to break the 10-inch mold to get to your 16-inch bicep, right? Same thing for pectorials and whatever it is. So by nature, just about everything, right, in order for it to grow, it's got to be broken, right? And if for those of you who spend any time in the gym, right, one of the things you'll learn is that as you're growing, right, or as you're going to the gym and as you're beginning to break the mold, what ends up happening is you get a lot of soreness, right? There's a lot of pain that comes along with it. The reason why is because you're breaking these muscle fibers, right? And then when they rebuild, they come back stronger. And so, in general, your mindset's going to be the same way, right? You have to be able to embrace the failure, because through that failure is where you're going to grow, right? It's just like that muscle, right? Through that failure, right? You're going through the psychological knowing that this is my limit. And now I try to push it and it broke. So therefore you're going to feel like you failed. But the reality is you pushed yourself beyond your limits. So you didn't fail, right? You just happen to break, you understand where your capacity is at now. And now you're able to exceed that. Um, so this is right here where we have to be able to embrace, right, expanding the comfort zone. We can't just keep doing the things that make us comfortable, right? Or the things that we feel okay with, right? So, I have a 7-year-old daughter right now, and she's super bashful, right? So like she has a hard time saying hi to people. She has a hard time, when she gets around groups, she's like super bashful. And she also plays soccer, and she's a goalkeeper. And for those of you who play soccer as a goalkeeper, she has to be very vocal, right? Because she almost has to move people around. She has to boss people around, right? She has to get in people's faces because mainly in soccer, whenever the opposite team scores on you, it's usually a breakdown either in your defensive line or in your midfielders or whatever, right? There's some type of breakdown that happens there. And so therefore she has to be more vocal, and it's just not in her nature, right? So trying to work with her to get out of that comfort zone, it's been very challenging. And so some of the things here that we have to talk to her is about her failure and being able to just kind of get comfortable. So the way that it looked for her is, she started engaging with her teammates, and at first it was like, hey, you're not in the right position, move over left, whatever. And then, so that's the way that it started. And then, a year later, like if you hear her on the field right now, right, she's like, I told you, why haven't you moved yet? Right? Like we've did this, right? But it took some time to get there for her to be that vocal, to be there, right? And that's the same example that I try to tell everyone in life, right? We have to be able to get out of, we have to be in this mindset where we get out of our comfort zones, embrace the failure, right? Break the mold so that we're able to grow, right? So outside of that, you're not going to grow. You'll just be stuck in the same place, right? Which is where she would be at, right? So she would have been a good goalkeeper who's not vocal, but she wouldn't have gotten any better. She would have just been where she's at right now. And it's the same mindset for us. No matter what it is that you do in life, right? Whatever it is that you decide, right? You have to be able to get out of that comfort zone, expand yourself so that you're able to learn new things, right? Be able to take that feedback, right, when people give it to you, and then use that as something else. So remember that growth and mindset, right? Expanding the comfort zone, they go hand in hand. Those two things go hand in hand. It's almost impossible to get growth without getting out of your comfort zone. As a matter of fact, I've probably have never seen someone grow in general without getting out of their comfort zone. All right, so now we move on to our next online workbook question. So we're going to do the same thing. We'll give you 90 seconds to be able to answer the online workbook question. Then we'll break away for a 5-minute group session so that we can discuss it as a group. And then I will kind of come back and cover the next topic out there. So your online workbook question. Think of a recent moment when you chose comfort over challenge. If you could rewind that moment, what small risk could you take instead, and how might that help you grow? Okay. So it's another good question. We'll give you guys 90 seconds to be able to answer your online workbook question. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Glad you guys were able to take your time to be able to answer the online workbook questions. Now let's break away into a quick 5-minute group session and start talking about this.
Chris,
Yes,
hindi na,
Will. Can you hear me?
yeah, hindi siya nag-share screen. So,
Ay,
click up rooms.
okay, let me try again. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome back.
All righty, we're back. Who wants to go? Who wants to tell me something they would do something different here because they didn't push themselves and they were in the comfort zone? No, we're not warmed up yet. No, thought I heard somebody. No. All right, where do we want to go? All right, come on, Emerson. You always have good stuff to say, man.
Okay, so a recent moment where I chose comfort over challenge was like actually like this week because I had a presentation due for today. And instead of doing it, I decided to just like slack off and, have fun. So yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that's not the best feeling in the world, buddy. So it's got to get a little more discipline behind that. All right, what about you, Maximiliano?
Well, for me, it's more in the like athletic department. I do swimming, and one of the events was the 100 butterfly. If any of you guys swim, I don't know, like if you don't swim, I don't know how to put that in perspective how hard it is. But I decided to scratch that event off and choose an easier event because I decided to choose comfort over a real challenge.
Yeah, yeah, man. So I tell you what, my little girl's into swimming right now, and she's a pretty good swimmer. She hates it. But yeah, man, that butterfly that is a tough event, man. So, I can't even do it, so I can imagine how hard it is. So maybe that's how I'll push myself out of here. Is I'll start doing I'll start doing the butterfly swim courses with my little girl. Yeah, you know what? One of the things that I shared with the group that I was with is like myself. One of the things that where I chose comfort over risk was just even with my little girls, right? So I think that as a kid, what I remember my parents is that they would always take me out all over the place, right? So I'd be at the store, I'd be at the grocery stores. My dad would take me to work. My dad was a butcher, and he'd take me to work around all these knives and around all these animals that we were butchering and everything else. And then they'd take me out to the farm, and I just be all over the place, right? And and because of that, I was able to develop at least a good sense of worldly views, right? And I understood the world a lot better. With my kids as a father, I'm doing the opposite, right? I always choose comfort because, instead of taking them out in the world to go show them all this stuff, what I'd rather choose is just, kind of stay home and let's watch movies, in the comfort of our own home, where I know that they're going to be safe and protected, and they're just not going to be out there in the risk, right? So I don't know if it's because, I have two daughters and I'm a girl dad and, I just tend to be a little bit more protective of them. And if I would have had a son, I might have been a little bit different. Or if it's just, hey, right, I'm just not really looking to expand my comfort zone there. But if I could rewind, right, and I could hit that button all over again, I definitely would put them out there a lot more so that they can learn a lot more because yeah, they're definitely a little bit sheltered now, and I would rather them not be that way. But it'll be a good thing there. So, but again, right? So my big challenge, for the folks that shared, right, and for those of you who did not share, I push you that I would ask you that you start pushing your comfort zone so that you partake in these conversations a little bit more, and be a little bit more aggressive behind that, right? So because again, public communication is one of the things that's going to help you guys immensely throughout your career, right? Being able to conquer your fears or conquer your reservations of being able to talk in a group, right? Without being called on and all that, right? It's one thing that'll really help you out a lot. And that's just one of the things that, I would definitely encourage you guys as we go on to this next semester. That you guys are pushing those limits there a little bit, right? So it'll just help you a lot, just out throughout life there. So good stuff as we kind of cover there. All right. So now let's work on the next slide here that we're going to be talking about, right? So this is kind of a setting up for semester two, right? So we're coming in. So this is our first class. Been a lot of reviewing, right? So we covered a couple of different things here at the beginning, but let's start talking a little bit about getting ready for setting up semester two. The big point is that your mindset, right? We keep going back to this word, right? Your mindset's the one that's going to set the tone for the next 12 weeks, right? So we have 12 weeks with each other, right? So 12 hours, right? Probably the most fun hours that I'll have, in my life. So I thank you for that. But having that right mindset is what's going to allow you to kind of shape this experience that Youth Champions is, right? You're going to get from it you're going to get from it whatever you take from it, right? So at the end of the day, we put it out there, but it's for you to take it. So make sure that you have that right mindset. Let's get reset here, right? Remember, preparation starts with the mind, right? So, right before we take any major journey, right, you got to make sure that you're in the right mindset, right? You got to have that vision, and then we got to start talking about how to break that vision down into smart goals, right? The next 12 weeks, guys, right? So the next 12 weeks, and I talked about it a little bit here when we talked about participation and being able to communicate. It's a good opportunity for you to practice your growth, for you to be able to push yourselves, right? This is a little bit of a safe zone for us, right? So if we come back in there and we fail, really, it does not, it's not that, not to embrace it, right? Especially with this group, right? So all of us are on the same boat here. We're all learning together. This is something right here where we're not passing judgment or anything else. So it's a great way to be able to kind of help yourself, get over those fears of whatever it is. So this is a good way to be able to practice growth, right? We're not trying to get you to be perfect. We're just trying to grow a little bit, right? So, and as long as you're growing a little bit, you're becoming perfect, right? So intentional focus, right? Got to make sure that we're making this intentional focus, and we talked about some techniques last semester, right? About how do you set something up, right? So I talked about my workstation that when I'm at home, right, I set up my workstation it's a certain way, and when I get in front of it, right, and particularly for this class, like I'm in this zone, right? My intentional focus, it's about this, and it's about you guys and delivering a good message and delivering a good speech. So once I get here, my preparation becomes all that. So making sure that we have good intentional focus here across the next 12 weeks so that you can set yourself up for success, right? When you feel the resistance, right? When you're starting to feel that urge and you're kind of like, I don't. And by the way, it happens to everyone. Believe me, 15 minutes before this class gets going, my anxiety starts to kick in, and I'm like, who am I to be able to teach these kids, right? Are they really gonna, how are they looking at me through the other side of the camera? Believe me, it feels a little weird to have 50 people staring at you on the other side of the camera out there, right? Am I gonna mess up? Am I gonna do the wrong words, right? It just goes out there, right? But again, remember, that's just a discomfort signal, right? What that means is that it's progress, right? That you're in here, right? You get in the right mindset. That's what I do, right? I come back in here, I get in the right mindset. I'm like, okay, I practice the slides. I have good examples that I can come back into it. At the end of the day, right, no matter what, I'm still a human being. So perfection is not what really I'm trying to strive for. I'm just striving that every single lesson that I bring out to you guys is just a little bit better, that you guys can take a little bit more away from it, right? And so once I put it into that, things become better for me. The other piece of advice that I would share with you, and I share this with all my staff, right? And I'm not sure if I covered this story last year or last semester, right? But the big thing that I always tell my staff is, guys, break it down to me so that it's a 32-ounce can. And the reasons why I always say that, right, is don't give me a football field worth of problems. And where that comes from is from the understanding that in order to fill an entire football field worth of fog, it only requires 32 ounces of water, right? So that's your big gulp, right? And I think I might have covered it, as one of the examples that I used last semester. But it's 32 ounces. So if we can take that whole football field worth of fog and break it down into 32 ounces, right? Then we're in the right mindset, and we can do whatever it is that we set our minds to, right? We can put our goals together. So so that's always a good one. And then lastly, for success, right? And not just with you champions, but everything, there's just three things that I would say, right? Stay curious, stay engaged, right? And be consistent. Stay curious, stay engaged, and be consistent. Okay. All righty. So that'll cover that. So what we're going to do right now, we got one more online workbook question here that we're going to cover. Let's go 90 seconds with the online workbook question. And then Sheila, I think we're running up against the clock. So what we'll do is we'll skip the breakout groups, and then I'll just come back and have a discussion with everyone about it after the 90 seconds. Sounds good? All right. So instead of going into a breakout session, just due to time constraints, folks, what we'll do is let's just kind of just real quickly here, and instead of me calling on people, what the question here comes out is what kind of person you want to be at the end of these 12 weeks, right? And what mindset will you need to practice each week to get there? Um, what I would just say is that what I would like for all of you is for at the end of these 12 weeks is that you're able to take away from these lessons, key tactics that are going to make you a better person, right? And so that better person is going to be defined by you. It won't be defined by me. But whether that makes you a better student or whether that makes you a better child or a better athlete or a better, fill in the blank here that I haven't been able to cover, right? What I'm hoping is that this program becomes instrumental for you guys to be able to be whatever it is that you're setting your vision to be at the end of these 12 weeks. Um, from a mindset perspective, it's just that again, that intentional focus, right? I hope that you guys all bring it there, and that by the time we get to the end of this, that we've all been able to grow, and instead of this being a um, a instructor student relationship, that this really becomes more about of a dialogue, because you guys have reached the confidence level to be able to just have a conversation with me and not look at me as an instructor more than just a mentor, right? Who we can just have a conversation for. So again, I'll just reiterate one more time, right? Stay curious, stay engaged, stay consistent, right? So if you can do all those things, that'll drive the disciplines that you need in order to be successful and get the things that you need out of this program here. All righty. So let's talk about next class, right? So for next week here, so we can kind of get some things wrapped up here, right? So next week we'll be talking about investments, right? So and in that we'll start talking about money and how it grows, right? We'll talk about risk versus return, and how things like inflation, they kind of help us. And inflation is probably a good conversation, a good topic. So it's all over the news right now. I believe the new coin phrase that we're talking about now is affordability. So that that'll be a good discussion to be able to have. And then lastly, right, we'll just learn about the different investment types, right? The values, diversification. All diversification means is that, there's 5 different ways to be able to invest in things and make sure that you get a piece of all of them, right? So you're not just in one area, right? So that you're able to build, the confidence that you need for future financial decisions. So we'll talk about that next week here when we spend our time together. Okay. All righty. That being said, I think I finish off with some announcements here. And then we can go to the 90 seconds at the end if you're okay with that, Chris. So there's 3 announcements here that we have, folks, right? So one quick reminder, right? So we have a field trip, right? That's for junior achievement in the finance park. The date for that field trip is February 7th or 14th. You have to sign up for one or the other. Please don't sign up for both, right? We need you to RSVP by January 30th. So if the 7th works best for you, then please do that. If the 14th works best for you because you want to celebrate Valentine's Day with us, we'll absolutely take you also. So please make sure that you sign up by January 30th. Don't forget about the Ignite speaker series, right? So these are very, very good people that are making time to be able to come in and have some speeches with us, right? So that one is on February 2nd, and again, it's the same deadline. Need you guys to fill in those RSVPs by January 30th. And lastly, for you folks that are part of the college math program, there's a link in the chat. Let's make sure that we fill those out for us so that we're able to maintain the proper data for the program. So we can continue to invest in this program here for us, right? And we give people the right feedback. Alrighty, folks. That being said, I believe we're going to wrap this up with 90 seconds for you to work on your online workbook questions. I am going to sign off. Again, it is a privilege for me to be here again. I'm glad you guys are all back. I hope you guys get as much out of this as I'm getting and even more. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, and happy holidays for all of those that go out there, right? And if I missed anybody. So again, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Bojo. Thank you, everyone. Please send like emojis before you go. Thank you, thank you.